This is Dr. Jose Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines. His father is Francisco Mercado, the youngest of 13 offspring of Juan and Cirila Mercado. Born on April 18, 1818, in Binyan, Laguna, he studied at San Jose College, Manila, and he also died in Manila. While his mother is Teodora Alonso, the second child of Lorenzo Alonso and Brigida Quintus. She studied at Colegio de Santa Rosa, a business-minded woman, courteous, religious, hardworking, and well-read. She was born in Santa Rosa, Manila on November 14, 1827 and died in 1913 in Manila. Talented and versatile genius. He is the seventh of the 11 children of Francisco and Teodora. Now let's talk about his life when he was still studying. Year 1864, when Jose was 3 years old, like other children, his first teacher was his mother. She taught him church prayers and songs, etiquette, names of different types of plants in their house, and of course alphabet that he had memorized at the age of 3.
He also had a private tutor, Professor Celestino, Professor Lucas Padua, that teaches him arithmetic, and Professor Leon Monroy, who is also former classmate of Jose's father.
Year 1870, when Professor Leon died, Jose's mother decided to enroll him to school in Binyan, and was even challenged by his classmate who said to be the son of their professor. On the other hand, Andres Salandan, his another classmates, defeated him because Jose was small and Andres was much stronger than him. He also developed his skills in arts with the help of Juancho Carrera.
Year 1872. In July 1872, Jose went to Manila to take a test for Christian studies, arithmetic and reading lessons at the College of San Juan de Latron, and he passed it.
But his father's decision changed and he chose Jose to study at Ateneo. Jose went to Manila again with his older brother Pasiano to take care of his studies at the Ateneo. Jose used the surname Rizal in his studies at the Ateneo because the surname Mercado was respected by Spaniards.
First, Father Martin Fernando didn't accept him, because of the following reason.
He is late for the enrollment. He looks small for his age. He looks sick. But because of Father Manuel Serix Burgos, who is their friend, Jose got accepted in Ateneo.
In his first year in Ateneo, 1872 to 1873,
Father Josevec became his first teacher at Ateneo. He did not have such extensive knowledge of the language Spanish, so he was in the low rank in the Cartagena Empire. Jose studied lessons at Colegio de San Isabel during his free time for 3 pesos, and at the end of the month he leads their class called Emperor.
In Jose's first year in Ateneo, he also joined a fraternity, named Mary and St. Louis Gonzaga, which the members are students with the highest ranking in each of their class. And their meeting was held every Sunday. At the end of the year, he was one of the 9 best students, but unfortunately he didn't receive any award. In his second year in Ateneo, 1873 to 1874,
Rizal got 1 gold medal. He decided to live in Calle Magallanes inside the Intramuros. At this year, he visited his mother who was in jail, and he also predicted when his mother would be released. That happened later on. He received an award for their quarterly examination. He received 1 medal for Latin. He started to love reading romance novels.
His fourth year in Ateneo, 1875 to 1876.
Father Francisco de Padua Sanchez gave him advice and told him to continue studying and writing poems. Jose described him as one of the best teachers, that's why he is favorite. Results at University of Santo Tomas. Doña Teodora was against on his decision to continue his studies at the University of Santo Tomas. He still pursued it. He chose the course Philosophy and Letters. Because Because of two reasons. Number one, that is his father wants. Number two, he was not yet sure what he really wanted to study. Rizal's at Madrid. October 3, 1882. At the age of 21, Rizal went to Madrid to continue his medical studies. This is also the first time that Rizal did not ask permission from his parents because he knew they would stop him. The only one who knew of his departure was his older brother Pasiano. He took two courses in Madrid, medicine and philosophy and letters. Rizal stayed in the center of Madrid to save on transportation. It is said that he moved boarding house 9 times because his rent payment was often short and his allowance from the Philippines did not arrive on time.
He continued to struggle in his studies. He still obtained a degree of licentiate in medicine, and completed his medical course on July 21, 1884. And because he was short of money that time, he was not able to submit his thesis, and he did not pay the appropriate amount for graduation, so he was not given a diploma. In 1885, he completed his philosophy course. Rizal still did not stop studying and took ophthalmology course. After he studied in Madrid, he went to Paris. He lived there, and worked as an assistant to Dr. Louis de Weckert, a French ophthalmologist. In 1886, Rizal went to Germany. He worked at the University Eye Hospital with the help of Dr. Otto Becker. Also, because of the help of Dr. Otto Becker, Jose graduated ophthalmology course. And this is the life of Dr. Jose Rizal when he was still studying.
Rizal as a growing propagandist. In his second trip, Rizal became more active in the propaganda movement. Rizal is one of the forerunners of the propaganda movement that awakened the Filipino people from the abuses of Spanish colonizer and served as the mouthpiece of the injustice and grave human rights violation the Filipino went through during the Spanish rule, where he used the pen name Laong Laan. The other ilustrados who are part of propaganda movement: Marcelo H. del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Haina, Antonio Luna, Mariano Ponce, Trinidad Pardo de Tavera. Propaganda movement was a set of communication actions through books, leaflets, and newspaper articles by a group of Filipinos who called for political reforms. The three reforms of propaganda movement campaign such as: first, for the Philippines to be made a province of Spain so that the native Filipinos would have equal rights accorded to Spaniards. 2. Representation of the Philippines on the Spanish Cortes Act. And last, the secularization of parishes. Rizal became preoccupied with writing articles and essays which were published in the propaganda movement newspaper La Solidaridad. La Solidaridad was established to express the goal of propaganda movement towards achieving assimilation with Spain. La Solidaridad was founded in February 15, 1889. The first editor of La Solidaridad was Graciano Lopez Haina, and Marcelo H. del Villar, the second and the last editor of the La Solidaridad. Some of his intellectual works in Europe: his annotation of Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas in 1890. Rizal's intent was not only to provide the Filipino people their early history, a pre-Spanish history, but to present to them their own authentic culture and identity. He also wrote an essay entitled Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos, published in 1890, was written as a response to the accusation that Filipinos were lazy who would rather gamble their money than work in the farm. He started the essay by illustrating what the Philippines was like before the Spanish came into the archipelago. Another essay he worked strongly called for reforms. It was called Pilipinas dentro de 100 años, published in parts 1889 to 1890. It is one of the most significant political works of the movement in Spain, Rizal tracing the circumstances that brought about the awakening of the Filipino and consequently the birth of the Filipino spirit of a nation. By July 1891, while in Brussels, Rizal completed his second novel, El Filibusterismos, which was published on September 18, 1891. Through the help of his friend Valentin Ventura, compared his Noli Me Tangere, El Filibusterismos was more radical with its narrative portrayal of society on the verge of a revolution. Rizal dedicated the new book to the three priests Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, who were executed because of their supposed participation in the first revolutionary campaign of modern Philippines nationalism, the Mutiny of Cavite. And El Filibusterismo continues the lawless criticisms of the abuses and corruption perpetrated by Spanish government. In 1892, Rizal decided to return to the Philippines, thinking that the real struggle was in homeland. In spite of warnings and his family disapproval, Rizal arrived in the Philippines on June 26, 1892. Immediately, he visited his friends in Central Luzon and encouraged them to join the La Liga Filipina, a socio-civic organization that Rizal established on July 3, 1892. The League became a threat to Spanish authorities. Unfortunately, just a few days after the Liga's formation, Rizal was arrested and brought to Port Santiago on July 6, 1892. He was charged with bringing with him from Hong Kong leaflets entitled Pobres Frailes, a satire against the rich Dominican friars and their accumulation of wealth, which was against their vow of poverty. Pobres Frailes incriminatory leaflets under the authorship of Father Jacinto and printed by Imprenta de los Amigos del País Manila, a satire against the rich Dominican friars who amassed fabulous riches contrary to their monastic vow of poverty. In spite of his protest and denial of having those materials, Rizal was exiled to the Pitan in Mindanao. He wrote unceasingly for the La Solidaridad mouthpiece of the propaganda, hoping, as did his fellow propagandists, that the pleas of the Filipinos would be heard by the power that be. He produced the two novels that he hoped would succeed in achieving his goals, where all other means had failed, but which ultimately led to his death.
Factors that lead to Rizal's execution. In 1886, Rizal published in Berlin a Tagalog novel in the Spanish language with the title Noli Me Tangere, a book that overflows with hatred against the mother country. In it, he lashes at the Spaniards with the most infamous insults, defiles the Catholic religion, and attempts to prove that the Philippine nation can never be civilized as long as it is ruled by those whom he calls decadent and contemptible Castilians. It goes without saying that after the authorities received knowledge of it, the distribution of this work in the island was forthwith prohibited. The sequel of Rizal's Nole came off the press by the middle of September 1891, entitled El Filibusterismo. In veneration of the three priests, he dedicated the book to them. However, Rizal succeeded in eluding the government order and in distributing the book throughout the archipelago with a foreseeable deleterious effect. Rizal arrived in Dapitan on board of steamer Cebu on July 17, 1892. Dapitan, now a Zamboanga del Norte, was a remote town on Mindanao which served as a politico-military outpost of the Spaniards in the Philippines. It was headed by Captain Ricardo Carnicero, who became friends of Rizal during his exile. The quiet place of Dapitan became Rizal's home from 1892 to 1896. On that year, he practices medicine and pursues scientific studies and continue his artistic pursuit in sculpture, painting, sketching, and writing poetry. On the eve of July 21, 1896, Dr. Pio Valenzuela visited Rizal in Dapitan and informed him about the founding of Katipunan and the planned revolution. Rizal objected to it, citing the importance of a well-planned movement with sufficient arms. Rizal has been sending letters to then-Governor General Ramon Blanco. Twice he sent letters, one in 1894 and another in 1895. He asked for review of his case. He said that if his request would not be granted, he would volunteer to serve as a surgeon under the Spanish army fighting in the Cuban Revolution. On July 30, 1896, Rizal's request to go to Cuba was approved. The next day, he left for Manila on board of steamer España. On September 3, 1896, he boarded steamer Isla de Panay, which would bring him to Barcelona. Upon arriving at that fort, however, Governor General Despujol told him that there was an order to ship him back to Manila. And on November 3, 1896, Rizal arrived in Manila and immediately brought to Fort Santiago. The preliminary investigations of Rizal's case began on November 20, 1896. He was accused of being the main organizer of the revolution by having proliferated the ideas of rebellion and of founding illegal organizations. Rizal pleaded not guilty and even wrote a manifesto appealing to the revolutionaries to discontinue the uprising. Rizal lawyer Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade tried his best to save Rizal. However, on December 26, 1896, the trial ended and the sentence was read. Jose Rizal was found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad. On December 28, 1896, Governor General Camilo de Polavieja signed the court decision. He later decreed that Rizal be executed by firing squad at 7 a.m. of December 30. Rizal, on his last remaining days, composed his longest poem, Mi Ultimo Adios. Mi Ultimo Adios is which was about his farewell to the Filipino people. On December 29, 1896, when Rizal's mother and sister visited him, he gave away his remaining possession. He handed his gas lamp to his sister Trinidad and murmured softly in English, "There is something inside." Eventually, Trini and her sister Maria would extract from the lamp and a copy of Rizal's last poem. At 6:30 in the morning on December 30, 1896, Rizal in black suit, with his arm tied behind his back, walks to Bagong Bayan. The order were begun and shots were fired. Consummatum est, or it is finished. Rizal died offering his life for his country and its freedom.